If you want to, I'm getting.
We're on Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis in the Bavli, Maseches Gittin 72b in the Bavli. So we said in the end of the Mishnah that if the husband said to his wife, Ze Gitich, this is your get, from today if I die. In other words, he wants to spare her having to go through Yibum or Chalitza, and he wants to give her the get. He doesn't want to divorce her now. He wants to divorce her one moment before he dies. So he says, this is your get from today if I die. Then the Mishnah says, all of a sudden he had like a lot of times, unfortunately, people are very ill. It seems like they're getting better, and then eventually, unfortunately, they pass away. So this is what happened. He went and he started walking around. He got sick again and he died. So we have to have a professional opinion. If he died from his first illness, it's a get. To know, the Bezdin has to know whether his Tanai was fulfilled, whether his condition was fulfilled. So that was the comment, that was the din in the Mishnah that we learned in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, his get is like a matana. So for example, a shchiv mira, somebody who's very deathly ill, right? We're talking about that he's very ill. So just like a matna shchiv mira, the gift of someone who's very deathly ill, if he would get better, he gets his gift back. So to his get, if he gets better, the get does not come into play. Just like his get, even if he doesn't specify, the moment he says to write it, even if he didn't say tnu, to give it, nevertheless, it comes into play. And Rashi points, this is the opinion of Shimon Shazuri with Allah, like him. The moment you say kisvu, we realize that he meant to say no. He's just he doesn't have, he's on his deathbed, so he can't. He meant to say no. So to matnose, given over to know if he says to give the gift, even if they didn't do a kinyan by matana, usually you have to have a kinyan, you have to have an act of acquisition. Even if you didn't, it still works. It's fine. It comes into play. It takes effect. It takes effect. Okay. So that was the din that Ravuna taught us. Now we're going to analyze if this fits with what we said in the Mishnah. It's not. It's that we said in the Mishnah. The husband says, "This is your get from today if I die from this illness," and then he will start walking around. And he gets ill and he dies. So we measure. If it's because of his first illness, it's a get. If not, it's not a get. And it doesn't say, we don't say Omad Chayzer. Sorry, if you're going to say like a Ravuna, that the moment he's Omad, that he gets up from his illness, Chayzer, the whole get is cancelled. Why are we going to measure if he gets sick again to see if it's because of the Chayle Harishon, his original sickness? Hare Omad, he got up. And the moment he gets up, the get automatically should be batal. In fact, that in our Mishnah, we say that as long as he dies of original illness, it's not batal.
When does he say that in the original illness? It just says, if I die from today. It doesn't say from the original illness.
Yeah, he said, if I die from this illness. The word was, imesi mechoyli zeh. He didn't say if he dies from illness. From this illness. Those are the words that he used. Mechoyli zeh. So if you're going to say, Imam Chayzer, that if he gets up, automatically it's canceled. Why are we going to measure to see if it was original illness? He got up.
I have a question. Why do you have to even specify in the first place that you're divorced if somebody dies?
Why would a person want to do that?
Yeah, because shouldn't it automatically be divorced if somebody's no longer a part of this world?
Oh, so like this. So that I explained it in short, but I'll explain more at length. If a husband and wife don't have kids, I'll just give an example. If they don't have kids and he dies, she's going to have to go through the chalitza process, which is that she's going to have to do a ritual with his brother to either marry his brother or spit in a shoe. And let's say his brother's a minor. He's only 8 years old. She's going to have to wait 5 years until she can do it. So he doesn't want her to be chained down with Yibum and Chalitza to go through that process. So he's going to want to give her a get. But he loves her. He doesn't want to divorce her. He's just trying to spare her agony. So therefore he says, it's only a get if I die from this illness. Now, why would he say from this illness? He should say from any illness. That I don't know.
And it's specifically so that she has a choice to marry whoever she wants?
That she's free to go. Yeah, she doesn't have to go through any process. She's free to go the moment he dies. If she's a almana, in certain situations, if they don't have kids, then she would be chained down until she goes through the process of Chalitza Yibum. Now, this isn't in every situation, so probably this is what we're talking about, what the Mishnah is talking about, why a person would want to do such a thing, to only give a get a moment before he dies. Okay, so we're back in our question. According to Rav Huna, the moment he gets up, the whole thing should be canceled. We shouldn't have in it. We shouldn't be measuring. Rav Yosef, Ma'ar, the son of Rav Yosef, said in the name of Rava, take me chayli l'chayli. We're talking about that he went from illness to illness. In other words, he didn't mamish get up. If he got up and he was strong, our Mishnah wouldn't apply. Rav Huna's din would kick in, that the whole get would be canceled. But because he went from one illness to the other, as long as he died from his original illness, the get is not canceled. Seems a little weak. I shouldn't say that about the Gemara. It says Omad. It says he got up. It doesn't say that he went from one illness to the other. Omad means he got up from one illness and he fell into another illness. What do you mean? It says in the Mishnah that he was walking around the marketplace. That doesn't mean going from one illness to another illness. Doesn't really mean that he was walking unaided. He still had to use a stick. He's still ill. And this, that it says the word holach, says Rashi, it's not because that we're talking about that it's not to teach you that if he got up, it's not canceled. It's teaching you that if he switched to another illness, you still need a measure to see if he eventually died from the original illness. But we're not saying that it's that Omad does not cancel it, because really Omad, if he gets up, it will cancel it. Rav Huna says it will cancel it. Well, Kamash Malon, and this is what we're coming to teach you. And this is the next page. We're now on the next page. That if he's you have to measure. If he's still ill, you're going to have to measure. You're going to have to measure to see if he dies from his original illness. But someone else, someone who gets much better. No, the other way around. The way Rashi explains, Idach is someone who's still ill from the same illness and he can't get up. Even if it switches to another illness in the interim, we don't have to even measure. You can assume he died from his original illness because he can't get up. He has to at least be able to get up and walk on a stick. If it goes to another illness, he has to at least be able to get up and walk on a stick to require umdana, for us to require to measure him. If he's still ill if he can't even get out of bed, you don't even need umdana. The get comes into effect. Shavat mino. We can learn from here about matana, about gifts also. Someone's very ill. He wants to give a gift, and his illness switched from one to the other. His matana is going to be a matana. His gift is going to be a gift. Only by a get does it have to be from the same illness, because by a get, it's the Baal, the husband, quickly specifically specified he was punished that Mecheliza has to be this illness. But Shchiv Menah is a general din. Someone who's very ill, he can give gifts. So even if he goes from one illness to another, his gift is going to be a gift. Says the Gemara, yes. Rav Elazar said in the name of Rav, if someone is deathly ill, he gave a gift, and then he switches, his illness switches to another, matnose matana, his gift is a gift. Says the Gemara, Rabba and Rava do not hold the Rav Huna. Why? They don't hold that the get is canceled if he gets up. They hold the get cannot be canceled. Why? If you're going to say the get cannot be canceled, is canceled the moment he gets up, people will think that really the get only takes effect the moment he dies. People will think there's such a thing as a get after death. Obviously, there's no such thing as a get after death. Yeah. So they don't hold the din of Rav Huna. If he didn't say Macy, even if he gets up, they don't hold of this din of Rav Huna that there's the idea of being chayzer, because if you're going to say chayzer, then if a person gets better, then people will think that it's really the misa that's causing the death. It's really that's causing the get, and you can't have a get lacher misa. So the Gemara asks, this doesn't make sense. If you say the gzeira is to cancel the get, that's one thing. But how can you say the gzeira is that she has a get, that her divorce is going to be a divorce? That means you're allowing her to marry anyone, even though she's still legally married to him. How could they say that? This is the next question. The Gemara, Mika midiraisa le have a get. You're going to say that there's something that midiraisa biblically it's not a get. Mishum gzeira, because of the gzeira, the people will think yesh get lacher misa. Sharin and eshes alma. We're going to allow her to marry whoever she wants. The Gemara says a powerful answer, but we use very rarely, but it's possible. In yes, called the mekadesh adaita the rabbanim mekadesh. Anybody who's mekadesh, it's based on the chachamim. Bafkinu rabbanim lekedushim minei. The chachamim able to take away his kedushin. It's very strong. So then you can have a question. So why don't they do it like in cases of like the wife goes like in the wife it's like she can't get a divorce. So why don't they do that? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure. In certain situations they don't use this power. So why do they only choose to use it here and not there? I don't know. Sorry, give me a second. Sorry. Weiter in the Gemara. Gemara goes like this. The Gemara says an interesting question. Teinach the Kodesh. Ravina told Ravashi. Teinach the Kodesh. Kodesh bebia ma'ikal meimer. This makes sense if the kedushin was with money. So you could say they take away the kedushin, but with bia, with relations, how can you say that? He says the chum could make as if you're be'ilo, as if when you had been with a woman in order to mekadosh was like be'ilas nos. It's a very strong part. Strong chiddush, a strong novelty. Okay. Taner Rabbanan was started the brisa. Ze גיטיך mayim meisi mecheli zeh. Person says, this is your get from today if I die from this illness. But nofal habayis olav. All of a sudden a house collapsed on him and he died from a landslide. Or the house collapsing, sorry. Or yikisha nochash, or a snake bit him. Ain't a get. It's not a get because he clearly died from something else. He didn't die from his illness. Died from the house falling on him. But if I don't get up from this death, from this illness, that's a different wording. Then that means if I don't get up. So in such a case, if the house falls on him or a snake bites him, ain't a get. Sorry, it is a get. It is a get. What's the difference in the first case and the second case? They sent from there. In other words, even in the first case, Rashi explains you could interpret to say mitoich choylizeh while I have this illness, even though the lashon is the wording is different. The word is meichoylizeh mitoich. So they sent from Eretz Yisrael. I guess at that time maybe the Chacham in Eretz Yisrael and so on. Sholch mitam ochli ari. There was a story that someone said this, and then a lion ate him. Ein lanu hahu gavra. Ein lanu. It's not a get. He doesn't have in mind. It's an ointzad l'shchiach. It's an ointzad l'shchiach. So therefore, in a case where he says he doesn't think of it. But if he says im loy amoid, it's a different story. If he says im loy amoid, if I don't get up, that's a whole different ball game because of the wording, and therefore, in such a case, in such a situation, it will be a good get. No, I'm sorry, I said it a little bit wrong. If the house fell on him or the snake bit him, that's more common. So because it's more common, if he uses the words imlay amoid, then it will be a get. But if it's ochli ari ein lanu, it's not going to be the case. Okay. Hahu gavra dezoven out of the chavre. There's a person who sold land to his friend. And he accepted upon himself if there's going to be an oinus that he'll pay the guy, he'll pay the buyer. If there's something terrible that's going to happen, he decided he's going to pay him. In the end, the king he took possession, and he said to put a river through the guy's field. Also, like Ravina, they went in front of Ravina, said, go and you have to give him what he lost. Why is that? So Kvila Salach calling to the Messiah that you accepted upon yourself any type of vinus, any type of damage, any type of terrible thing that's going to happen. You accept it upon yourself. This is something that's not common. You can't compare. It's only things that are common. And oinus, that's common. A lot of times in insurance companies, there's always the fine print. So this is like part of the fine print. The person only accepts upon himself an oinus that's common. A disaster that he can have, and that's possible. It's not so rare, but this is so rare that the king is going to take over. So therefore, he can't. This doesn't apply. Eventually, this matter came from Rav, and he also said it's an einzad l'shchiach. Ravina asked the question to Rav. We just had the brisa that said that if a house falls on him, if he says, "This is a get," if I don't get up from this illness and the house falls on him or the snake bites him, it is going to be a get. Rava said in the Reisha, we said, if I die from this illness, it's not a get. So it is a get. If I don't get up from this illness, it is a get. It's not a get. So there's a contradiction. Ravacho from Difti told Ravina, just because there's a question in the first case, you can still ask a question from the Seifa. You can still ask a question from the end. Given the Kasher Reisha Seifa Loi. He says, yes, because there's a question, we're not going to use this. We follow the logic. It must be that it was not said in the Beis HaMedrash. Actually, he wants to say, they interpret that the Chomer that said that the lion eats him, it's not a get. It's also not a get if a house falls on you. It's also not a get if a snake bites you. It's not a get in all these cases. Not a get. Because a person doesn't have in mind something that's not common. It has to be something that's more common. They sold sesame seeds. No, they bought sesame seeds on the banks of the river Malka. They hired sailors to bring their sesame seeds over the river. The sailors accept upon himself any disaster that will happen on the way. In the end, there was some sort of a dam and they weren't able to pass, the sailors. Amru Aguru Chamri Afginuni Alon da Kvil to Alaichul Kolain to the Misiale. Papa Navuna told the sellers, the sellers had accepted all the answers. I made a mistake. It wasn't the sailors, the sellers. So give us the value of the donkeys that we used to bring it to the bank of the river. This was an oinus. We want the money back. Also, the Kamei Rava went in front of Rava. So this is giants, two Talmudic giants, Rav Papa and Rav Huna Bar Yeshua. They wanted their money back, so they went in front of Rava. Amrlahu Kaki Chivri Meshalchi Glimi Deinchi. You are white geese. They were old, so it was like a lashon of respect. Very interesting. You're taking the clothes of people off of themselves for no reason. In other words, you want to get their money, but you don't deserve it. It's something that's not common. So because it's not common, even if you're makabel oinus, unless they are specifically makabel upon themselves an oinus that's shchiach, that's common, you're not going to get your money back. You don't get your money back. That's what he told them. That's what he told them. Okay. Thinking if we should continue because my father's not here and David Smolkin's not here, so half the shir is not here. We did till the Mishnah. What do you guys think? Is it okay to stop here, or do you want to continue to do another omelet?
Up to you, David.
I personally vote for stop, but it's because it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay, fine. So we'll stop here because half the shir is not here.